Welcome to Investors Insights, where this week's topic is Far East focus. A lot going on this week, as always. It's the last big week of earnings. 60 S&P 500 companies reporting earnings. So far, earnings season is pretty good. But this week, the market mover is going to be the trade talk and what's going on with China. Trey, start off by talking about that.
Yeah, at the end of last year, we had two really unknowns. What was the Fed going to do and what was going to happen with the trade talks between the U.S. and China. One of those unknowns has really kind of cleared up. The Fed appears to be on the sidelines, and we've seen a good market rally from that. The China talks appeared to be going well until last week when you saw some uncertainty around that. The President Xi and Trump meeting was pushed off. We saw the markets really trade down for the first time in the year. And so this week, I think all eyes will be on the preliminary talks that are happening because we're coming up against a deadline. Adam had some good information on that.
Yeah, these preliminary talks are very important right now. They're talking about or discussing a mid-March meeting. Of course, that's after the March 1st deadline. So we could see those U.S. tariffs, imposed on the Chinese goods. But, those could always be delayed. So that's not a concrete, evidence that that's going to happen. At the end of last year, the Chinese New Year ended on February 5th, the Lunar New Year. So now we're starting to see that come to fruition. Ashley talked about Chinese being weak last week. They need this to stimulate their economy. They had the slowest economy growth in 28 years. So this is really important to them, too. I think we're going to start to see some movement maybe over the next couple months.
And the other factor we've seen is demographic. Their birth rate is really dropping. They had the one-child policy for so many years. They took that away a few years ago, but the birth rate is still dropping, and people think, well, why is that important to markets and money? It is they're having tremendous problems with their younger worker set because that population is really fallen. So besides the fact they have a lot of these structural problems in the trade war, they're having this one similar problem we are in trying to find workers. But theirs is particularly bad because they're facing a really, really tough demographic with this birth rate dropping.
Yeah, we're seeing negative report after negative report come out. So at some point, they've got to come to the table and say, okay, hey,
enough.
We need to talk. We got to sit down and figure this out.
I think a deal on March 1 is unlikely, but like to Adam's point, the likely situation is we're just going to start delaying things if we get movement. And Adam, you brought up this morning about how the intellectual property is going to be the focus of this week. And so I think that'll be very huge to see how, if China will meet us halfway there, I think that'll be very beneficial.
Yeah, and keeping our focus on the Far East. Trey, talk about South Korea.
Yeah, I read an interesting fact this morning. So as most people know, we keep a lot of troops over in South Korea to help maintain the peace over there, but I was unaware that we were getting paid by South Korea to do that, and that actually went up 8% this year. South Korea will pay us $920 million this year to keep the peace and maintain our troops over there. It's good to hear, that we're doing a good deed, but it never hurts to get paid to do it too.
So a lot going on this week. We're focusing on the Far East, the trade talks. Call us with any questions. There's a lot going on. We'd love to hear from you. Have a great week. Thanks.